You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Shawn Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Pretty excited about this week's guest. Ivan, please go ahead and get us started.
Hey, I'm Ivan Zach, and I'm excited to introduce you to a colleague of mine, Dr. Kurt Phillips. Kurt is a founder and CEO of Cityway Animal Clinics. It's a privately owned veterinary corporation that owns and manages 5 veterinary practices in downtown Indianapolis. He's educated at Butler University and Purdue University School of Veterinary Medicine, full-time entrepreneur, business developer, CEO, and part-time practicing veterinarian in his own companies. He's a better leader today due to organizational structure that he was taught through the book Traction, which we both love with Shawn, and the entrepreneurial operating system. He's more happy today as the owner than he's ever been in his entire career of 21 years of practice ownership. This is awesome. Kurt, thank you for joining us. Thank you for finding the time. It looks like you're busy, really busy man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Kurt, super excited. I want to jump into a couple of theories that I don't know if you bumped into any content that we're producing recently, and I've been working a lot on burnout. One of the things that I'm kind of chasing right now, because a lot of people are talking about the well-being and the work-life balance and the meditations and all of these things, which are really, really important. But I have a theory that it's not a theory; it's when they already happened, and it's sort of like a band-aid. It's after effect. And one of the things that my hypothesis is that I'm trying to prove in my sort of research on this is that veterinarians are very goal-oriented people. And when they are choosing a career of veterinarian, then it's like 15 years. Everybody you talk to, they're like, oh, I wish that I was a vet when I was like 10 years old. It was my dream. Everybody, right? Wherever you go.
Yeah,
And it's annoying. and then,
yeah.
but not everybody becomes one. So the journey to get there is very selective, and you kind of drop out of college or other places. And so people that do make it to the vet, they had this like 10, 15-year goal and they achieved it. My theory is that at that point, you start working day-to-day practice 9 to 5, your goals are over. And if you don't set the next goal, you ultimately become unhappy. So my theory is that if you're not changing or setting a new goal, new residency, learn something new, or like yourself, becoming an incredible entrepreneur, building a network of hospitals, then you're not so happy. So I was wondering, do you think, given what I've thrown at you just now, that your happiness right now where you are is because you kind of change the direction and you're doing new things?
100%. I think that I answer that question a lot. People ask me, like, when was the first time you realized you were going to be a veterinarian, and why was that such a passion in your life? And, I remember it when I was in 3rd to 5th grade. And, I realized that I probably just was really skilled at the medicine and the didactic learning and the problem solving skills. And I knew I was skilled in science and wanted to be in the medical field at some point. But I think subconsciously knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, that I wanted to be my own business owner, that I wanted to be in charge, to be a leader that I knew I could be. And I knew I had leadership skills all the way through, my upbringing and into my early college life, prior to even getting accepted to veterinary school. So I think in that regard, this profession has helped me succeed, because you can be a leader and you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a business owner, you can be a CEO, as well as being that medical doctor, the doctor of veterinary medicine. So for that, I'm proud of my industry and my choices to be a veterinarian. Absolutely. So I think your theory is correct, honestly, Evan.
That's awesome, Kurt. So I've got a question. So I've run a ton of businesses. I started to be an entrepreneur when I was in my early 20s. It was my first company. And I led those companies and those people that worked for me on emotion, how I felt that day. I had no like book.
And you're an asshole. That's an important thing.
Yeah, that's actually, you actually are onto something here. So I remember at one point in my early 20s, I did this personality index. It wasn't Myers-Briggs, it was something else. And I was sitting on a board, I was a young entrepreneur sitting on a board for economic development, and I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to run a company. And after we got the surveys back, one of the other board members came up to me and he's like, Shawn, I really like you, but you need to change. You're going to fail as a business person. I was like, what the hell? Who's this guy? What's this guy know? and Ramsey, if you're listening, thanks. But, at that point, I got the first glimpse into like, hey, other people have done this before. There's actually, systems. There's books. I could read them. And, I stumbled on Traction at the beginning of this company because of Ivan. He actually introduced me to it. And, 3 years ago, we implemented Traction at the very, very beginning. And now we're going through this crazy growth curve. And if we hadn't put those systems in place, I'd be managing on emotion and I know I'd be failing. So my question is, when did you discover Traction and what kind of a change was it for you?
Yeah, I think I came to Traction probably as almost like a graduate level of a book that I read prior to that, which is the E-Myth book. And if you're familiar with Michael Gerber's work on the E-Myth, the entrepreneurial myth, I think the tagline below it says why most small businesses fail. And I was reading that at a time when my first company in the northern suburbs of Indianapolis, which was very successful. I was practicing medicine in a very great suburban practice with high quality medicine, had a great team, but I was just kind of leading it, as you said, Shawn, through emotion and with zero knowledge. I mean, there was no business courses in veterinary school. I did not go to the Cranert School at Purdue for the management program, which is, I hear, is an excellent thing to do. I didn't get my MBA. I just felt like I had enough letters after my name and I was going to be a business owner, whether they liked it or not. And I didn't necessarily require to have an MBA. So I picked up E-Myth and I read that. And I started putting together things like, accountability charts and organizational charts and job descriptions and just making sure that everything that I did as the owner, CEO, DVM of my own company, I wrote it down how I was doing it, because if it was slightly successful, then if I hired somebody else to do those roles, marketing, inventory control, finance, HR, any of those types of things, I could just hand those job descriptions off to someone and say, do it this way. And I made a boatload of mistakes before I read that book, and even while I was reading the book, it took some soul searching for me to realize, I this is me. They're talking about me. If I don't do the things that are in this book, I'm going to be one of those businesses that's on the cover of the book that will fail, right? And I had a business partner for a little bit, and she really wasn't truly on board with all of this. She just really wanted to be a veterinarian, and she is an outstanding veterinarian. And I just was not all that much focused on the clinical aspect anymore. And so then I read Traction, and I felt like it was a graduate program level of that. Taking all that I started with after learning from the E-Myth book and putting it into play with more of an accountability chart and more of a 3-year plan and a 1-year plan and 90-day rocks, and breaking it up into small sections. And it's the rhythm of our life in those 90 days. That's why businesses have quarters. That's why people set 90-day goals. It just really is. It's a nice ability to take a chunk of your entire career and break it down into small particles that you can unpack and digest. But I think it has to do with, putting together the right team that's around you, without the team. And I feel like that's the biggest problem with our profession right now, is that veterinarians, they're oftentimes just single person owners, and they're doing everything. They're seeing patients 45 to 50 hours a week, and then they have to do payroll, and then they have to figure out what their marketing plan and structure and strategy is going to look like. And then they have to make sure that they're crossing all their T's and dotting all their I's when it comes to HR. Otherwise, you're going to get sued hard, or you're going to get in a labor dispute, or you just don't want any of those things. So I have a great team put together that they do everything that I don't, and I'm really proud of them. And I live by the adage that I know what I know, and I know what I don't know, and I know who knows what I don't know. And that's in medicine, and that's in business, right? I surround myself with the right people at all times. So Traction book calls it, right person, right seat. And it's really an important concept that we should all grasp on. Yeah.
I was just thinking, this is brilliant. And then I was just thinking about your partner. She was right person, but not in the right seat, helping you manage organization. So, and, she has skills in a different location, and she probably is excelling in what she does as a veterinarian. But, I remember I keep referencing, so John Tate is the, hope he hears me one day, referencing him, but he was the guy who would come into vet school and do a 2-week course on, veterinary business. And I just didn't want to go there because I'm this doctor, like I business. That's not about me. I'm an artist. And then I sat through 2-week course, and the one thing that I realized, it was, oh shit, like this is, here's the reality. Like, we have no idea. And then these people that graduate with no education, I know that there's a couple of vet schools right now that have MBA built in. And I would say, I've done MBA recently, and I don't actually think that MBA on its own would get you where the traction gets you. It's just such a one sort of manual. It takes you through similar concepts, very sort of narrow, but it's a methodology. It just kind of rolls it out for you. It's like a manual cookbook. You can go back, open the page that you didn't remember, you open it up, like all of this. It just makes sense. We put traction in SmartFlow. I put it in IDEX in the software division. I did in every company. I helped Shawn to implement it. So it's just an awesome methodology. So I wanted to sort of ask you, so you're still balancing, still doing some shifts, I assume, right? You're still working in the practice, or you're just managing?
Well, all through 2020 with with the COVID pandemic, I was fortunate to have been in a place where I was not in the exam room at all. Just only here and there if I had to have two associate veterinarians out at the same time, I'd pop in and just make sure that my clients were cared for. But my goal was to back out completely. And now I'm back in again. It's like the old Godfather quote, and just when I thought I was out, I get sucked right back in. And so I'm going to take over for the next month while we wait for our next group of new grads that are coming in June to come join our team. So, and I like that, because every once in a while to pop in and to make sure that all the systems that I had put into place are being run. It's great to have boots on the street to say, hey, we put together some things, and this is just a slight morph from what we had talked about. Let's morph that back to where we need to be, and that just helps us kind of keep an audit on things internally. So. I don't want to be in the exam room for the rest of my life, and I would like to just be the CEO, leader, DVM that I am. But every once in a while, I understand the need for client and patient care.
Yeah, it's sort of your remember when coming back and realizing what's going on in the exam room.
Oh, and 2 weeks ago when I came back in, I literally had a little bit of, honestly, I suffer from a little bit of real mild anxiety getting back into the exam room. Like I thought, are my stethoscopes going to work? Am I going to know my drug dosages? Am I going to remember the things I'm going to remember? But it's like it is like riding a bike.
Is it there? Because I'm scared to go back. Like I haven't been in the exam room for probably 6 years now.
6 years. Yeah. You'd learn all the new drugs and all the new modalities and the methodologies, but it wouldn't take you too long. No, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So awesome. So Kurt, I wanted to double click on one of the things that you said that's been really meaningful for me as the CEO of an organization, which is the leadership team. And so this was a foreign concept to me. I was always the CEO. I had business partners in the past. We did our own things. We got things done. We managed on emotion. We had no rhythm. We had no 90 days. We had no 1 year. We looked at the books at the end of the month, and we were either profitable or we weren't. And so, I found it really, really interesting when we implemented traction, and then we had a leadership team, and then the leadership team came together. And then all of a sudden, for the first time in my career, I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel like it was all on me. I felt like I could go and I could say, I don't know how to do this, and we would figure it out together. What's it like assembling a good leadership team when you're running 5 vet hospitals? What does it look like? How did you do it? How's it working?
Well, I built the leadership team before we got to the point where we were, I think, at about 2 clinics, downtown. And I just knew that after that, if I was going to take on that trajectory, which I wanted to, and my accountants were encouraging me, every single year, they're like, hey, get out there and do something that might lose some money. It'd be great to put that on our books and to help with your tax burden. And every single time I've done it, not to be too bragatory, but we've been profitable within 7 months. And my CPA firm is, that's just not normal in the veterinary field. You're not oftentimes in the black. And their definition of being in the black is paying the owner a real wage, like a one that you deserve it of. That takes into consideration your degrees and your risk and your return on your investment and all that kind of stuff. Pay yourself, pay all your people, pay all your distributor reps, pay all the inventory and all the equipment that you need, and then still make a profit. We do that in 7 to 9 months. And it's because when we got to I think it was 2 veterinary practices, I said, we've got to have this team in place. I've got to have someone fully dedicated to HR. I've got to have someone fully dedicated to the books, to finances. I've got to have a marketing strategy and a plan. And that's not just saying, hey, we have this really great 24-year-old RVT who has a wonderful Instagram account. She probably could do our Instagram account. I'm sure she'll do a bang up job at it. No, I'm talking about, I have a full-time 40-hour week. She's paid a really great salary, and she focuses everything on our strategy, on where are we going to go? How many posts are we going to do? Where are we going to be? Which types of things? And if I didn't have all that, honestly, guys, I wouldn't have grown as fast as I did. We put up a practice every 2 years for the past 6 or 7 years, and they all are successful. So I'm really happy with that. So leadership team first, I guess, is the answer to your question, before you realize that you're in the weeds or you're too busy or you've made a bunch of mistakes that are going to harm you in the future.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I mean, in the last couple companies, the same for Shawn. The recommendation that I made is let's first figure it out. Who do we need? What does the org chart, accountability chart looks like? And then that's also an awesome instrument because when you're over your capacity, because you're still doing many things, then you're like, okay, I'm over capacity. Here's in the accountability chart. This is what I
Right.
plan to do, and I'm in these 4 boxes. So
Yeah.
which box
Yeah.
I want to give away? And then it's just elevate and delegate, right? Again, from there.
Yeah, number one rule of traction, right, is you can be in 4 boxes, but not 2 people can be in 1 box. So
Correct.
if you say, "Hey, so who's in charge of marketing?" and you're putting 4 different people in that box, then nobody's in charge, right? So, if I was doing marketing at the early part of my career, as soon as I could afford to hire someone to do it, I took myself completely out of it, give them all the accolades, and give them all of the responsibility, and I delegated all that. Like I said, delegate and elevate and delegate, and you trust them, and then you back off. You got to let it go a little bit. You cannot be harping on them and micromanaging them the entire time because there's just not enough time in the day to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so the question then, with all your success, you're up to 5 practices. Where is it going? What's the big dream?
What's a
What
5-year
is the
picture?
10-year goal? What's the 10-year goal?
Yeah. So our 10-year picture is very clear. It's $12 million of revenue and 9 practices and 6 service lines and a consulting line to our practice as well. So teaching other people what we've learned over the past 7 and then the future 9 years is really what I want to do. I mean, I'm doing this, of course, for myself to build my company to make it profitable so that I can sell it. My previous company that I grew and sold in 2015. It was a lifestyle business. It was great, but selling it and then being able to focus completely on the new methodology of how I wanted to run my companies has allowed me to grow so fast and so quickly and so successfully that I know exactly where I want to be. And you're right. And traction leads you down that path. Figure it out. Ask yourself and your leadership team, where do we want to be in 10 years and how do we need to get there? What are the steps? What's it look like? How many people? How many facilities? How many service lines? What kind of innovation and technology are we going to need to have? All that, and then you break that down to 3-year goals, and then 1-year plans, and then 90-day rocks, and it literally just it rolls in a rhythm of life that works.
Kurt, this is so exciting. So if you were to do everything all over again, any changes you would have made from the start, or are you happy with the trajectory?
I wish I would have got to the organizational structure earlier in my career for sure. I ran a company. I bought my first practice when I was 29 years of age. I was an associate in a practice. My boss said he just really needed to diversify and sell off. He had 3 practices. He sold one to me, he sold one to another associate, and with no help. Just here it is. Good luck. And so it took me a good 5-6 years. I had real little kids at the time too. So my daughter was 3 when I bought that practice, and my son was just born. And so, I spent a lot of time, which I'm not unhappy for. I spent a lot of time raising them as well, but I didn't spend a lot of time really focusing on my company. And I didn't read those books, the E-Myth book or the Traction, until 10 years down the road. Man, if I would have read those, or if they would have been available in the year 2001, I'd have been bigger and better than I am today, for sure.
Wow, this conversation's been so good. One of your ideas, your vision to kind of teach other people, me and Ivan are all about that. And I'd love to have another conversation to see if there was a way that we could maybe put something on, like do a webinar or do something that's
I'd love
streaming,
it.
talk to people about it, because we
Mm.
love the system. It's working so well for us. We'd love to give back to the profession as well. But listen, we burn through like every minute of our 20s. So we wrap up the
Okay.
thing the same way every time. Ivan, why don't you wrap us up?
So the question that I might have an answer for, what book would you recommend if you to our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. Traction is a great book, and that's the theme of today. I mean, definitely talk about the E-Myth book as well. I'd say on top of that, any Patrick Lencioni book out there
Mhm.
is going to help every single person understand that other companies are struggling in the exact same way you are. And it doesn't matter if they're in manufacturing or marketing or finance or veterinary medicine. We all suffer through the same things about building a team, about building a culture, about getting rid of the people who are not part of your vision and your values, and just sailing once you do. So those are 3 really great sections of books. Mhm.
And then the last question is another guest recommendation. So another innovator in the veterinary space that you think we should have on our show.
Yeah, I think that I'd given you one name. Tom Carpenter is a real good friend of mine. He's a facilitator for the Veterinary Studies Group. VMG, VSG is something that I'm a part of, and I'm really happy. Also, to your question earlier, what would it have done? I would have joined VMG a lot earlier too. Just all that camaraderie and that sharing of knowledge and understanding that everybody's in the boat together. Having someone like Tom Carpenter, past president of the American Animal Hospital Association, a wonderful facilitator, a really successful veterinarian who sold his practice in Orange County, California, and has just done really well. And his goal is to teach and just to pass on what he learned and what he didn't learn over the years. And he's an extreme mentor of mine, and I'm really proud to know him, honestly.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.